threats or promises, put them in the questionnaire box just to get us kicked off. Again, welcome to the Medicare Cafe. As always, I'm your host, Olivia Richardson, and today I'm joined by
Sadie Palmer.
Yeah, Sadie is taking the spot of Mr. Mike Gatorna while Mike is in vacation with his entire family in Las Vegas, Nevada. So today is actually going to be a really fun conversation. We're going to be talking about management of administrative staff. When it comes to owning an agency, there's really kind of two sides of management. Well, there's like three options of growth as an agent. One, you're an individual, you do your thing, you do your back office stuff, you work with nobody, you just keep trucking by yourself. There's growth in there.
Mm-hmm.
Two, you add downline staff or downline agents where agents are selling, you're supporting their selling, and you receive overrides. And then number three, there is you continue to be the main source of income for your agency. However, you have administrative staff. So there's three areas of growth. Today, we're going to talk about the admin side. I'm really excited that Sadie gets to join us today because I am the director of the department that Sadie is in. Mm-hmm. So you'll get to hear it from both sides of it, management and then Sadie talking all sorts of crap about how much she hates working for the company.
No way.
So again, any questions, let us know. First of all, I want to discuss, and we're going to talk about primarily the admin staff today. And starting it out with exactly who are your admin staff. And I think the biggest characteristic is that their primary job is not selling insurance. Their primary job of an administrative staff is to do administrative work, things like answer the phone, set appointments. What are some like retention activities we talk about for admin staff?
Well, working maybe like a Facebook page, which that's not like majorly retention, but a little bit still keeping in contact with your agents day to day. Let's see what else. I'm blanking.
Yeah,
suddenly.
I would think
a camera on me.
Panic. I think like a retention activity that admin can do is like when you sign somebody up for a Medicare Advantage plan and you want to have your, somebody call them and here, let's set up your dental appointment. Right. Let's get you signed up for a gym in your area, things like that. Things that I think for me, what it comes down to is anything that is busy work for an agent. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, agents make their money one way, and that is sitting across the table from somebody and signing them up for a policy. That is the only way an agent is truly productive.
Right.
So anything that stops an agent from being productive, like you mentioned, running a Facebook page, a lot of retention activities, answering the phones, we have back office work, checking the statuses of applications, checking commissions, things like that. Anything that stops an agent from writing a policy is something that should be replaced by your administrative staff.
Yeah, and all of this is like very important work, right? It's all work that has to be done, but it's not the actual selling. So someone has to do it. So it's the person you put in charge of doing all the things that they don't necessarily have to be licensed to do. Yeah.
There's a lot of products out there too that don't require a license, like CleverRx doesn't require a license. We're actually getting ready to add a new custodial care plan that doesn't require a license to sell. So, but I think one mistake that a lot of agents make when it comes to looking at and hiring, a lot of mistakes that agents make when it comes to hiring administrative staff is because I think that they don't set the right expectations, because agents, and I don't blame, because we are a sales mindset. We are very much sales centric. So we get an admin staff and we're thinking, great, they can start selling cancer products for me. They can start selling, all the ancillary stuff so that I focus on the core, they focus on ancillary. And in theory, that works very well. But that being said, why is it that you don't like to do the admin work? Because you have a sales mindset.
Right.
If you hire a salesperson to make all those ancillary product sales, they may not be as good as the paperwork or the back end stuff. Right. So just make sure if you are hiring administrative staff that you have the right expectations for them and you set the right expectations for them.
Yeah, that's big.
Couple questions, Howard, and I can't read that, so I don't have my glasses
for
on.
Sure. It says, what are the CMS limitations for non-licensed/non-certified staff?
So the limitations, that's a really great question, Howard. So the limitations is essentially there are CMS based certifications that if you're having somebody who is going to be looking at HIPAA sensitive information, so anybody who looks at your appointments, commission schedules, anything that can be tied to a person, an individual, there are fraud, waste, and abuse trainings that they have to do. Literally, all of our non-licensed staff that we have at Senior Marketing Specialists, we have to take them every single year, and it's like a 20-minute test. It does cost money. I think it's like $50 per staff member, but they are supposed to be able to take administrative training, and all it is just, again, fraud, waste, and abuse, because they are going to be looking at information. But as far as it comes to benefits or pay or bonusing or anything like that, there are no CMS guidelines, and we'll talk about that here a little bit.
Yeah, and he just asked, can they have access to client info?
Yes, so as long as they take that fraud, waste, and abuse training. And then some carriers will have, I'm going to scoot closer to you.
Sure.
And then some carriers will have like additional sort of things like that. Like United Healthcare requires that you do an annual background check, that you're supposed to be doing an annual background check on your admin team. Anybody who has access to client information. Some carrier, but United Healthcare is always going to be the stickler and always going to be like the compliance, like, I can't think of a great way to word. They're going to be very much sticklers on compliance, because they have a lot more to lose than a lot of other carriers do. So we always follow their guidelines, but they do require a background check on your admin team on an annual basis. Is there anybody really policing that? No. But if you ever receive an audit, or ever get audited, it is something nice to have.
I guess that is a good point to bring up, is like an admin person should be someone that you like really, really trust.
Yeah.
So like even hiring someone for, I don't know what the rest of the slides are, I might be skipping ahead,
No,
but
you're
like
not. Go for it. Sing it.
Keeping in mind whenever you're hiring admin staff, maybe someone that would be good for admin staff is like a family friend, or like someone that you already know and you have that trust built up as like the owner of the business. That's probably something to keep in mind as well. Someone who you can like really, really trust, because there's a lot in their hands.
They are literally holding banking information, social security numbers, HIPAA sensitive stuff. I mean, they have to. You're absolutely right. I've been watching a lot. Have you been watching Netflix, the Selena series?
No, I haven't.
It's got me all sorts of like questioning admin, because everybody knows what happens at the end of Selena, her fan club president. So now I'm just like, if you can't trust your fan club president, who can you trust?
Right.
You know?
But if they would have run more background checks. I just listened to a podcast about this
About
actually.
Selena?
So that's the reason why I know this. But if they would have done better like background checks on her, then they would have known that she was a little bit of a nut.
Was she?
So yes. Oh, because she was like a super fan who she wasn't just the president of her fan club. At first she was like her assistant.
Yeah.
And then there was like embezzlement and stuff like that. Selena didn't want to believe it. So they made her the president of the fan club. So she was kind of her admin person, legitimately. She was. So, and if they would have done more background checks.
So if you have someone that's obsessed with you, maybe don't hire them. But Howard says, what background checks are necessary? Who to use for background checks? We, for our background checks, we use a local source, or we did before we partnered up with Integrity. But Howard, make sure you talk to our team here, because they're going to have a lot more information on that. But they do a lot. If you like use like a payroll service, most payroll services will have an option to add background checks on an annual, monthly, weekly, however you need it done. So again, when it comes to administrative staff, we have seen it worked out to where, eventually they start maybe doing some sales on the side. But the biggest thing whenever you do that is just making sure that you're setting the expectation correctly. If you're wanting somebody to sell for you, admin isn't the way that I would go. I would probably lean more towards a downline situation. Now, why your agency? Keep in mind, especially in a lot of these areas, especially if you're doing a virtual sale agency, we have to keep in mind it's all getting pretty difficult to hire people, and getting not only that, but it's actually a lot more expensive to have to replace people constantly. And unfortunately, when it comes to admin staff and agencies, unless they're family members, because a lot of times your first admin staff is a family member, we see a lot of turnover in admin staff. And so we've kind of looked at what can we do to keep an admin staff happy with an agency, just because, again, it's really costly to have to consistently train and hire new administrative staff. So the biggest thing, obviously everybody works for a reason, and that is pay structure. How are you paying and I'm not going to give like figures because it depends on where you're located, rural versus urban. I'm not going to say you have to pay them this much money, but pay structure, being that, are they on a salary, hourly, and are there bonus opportunities? I think that's something that we see a lot, is having an opportunity to where they have a base pay and then bonusing them based on, not based on a task like stuff, but bonusing them based on, you did this really, really well. Here is a bonus for you. More of an appreciation bonus versus a complete this task and I'll give you a bonus.
Yeah.
There's a really interesting book called Drive that talks about how to utilize payment in a way to motivate people and what motivates individuals. And it comes out that actually paying people on a bonus for tasks actually demotivates them.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Is it like the pressure, or what do you think
it's more or less, whenever you pay somebody a bonus based on completing a task, it actually takes out some of the passion because they do it because for the paycheck. They don't do it because they have ownership in it.
That makes sense.
So figuring out a good pay structure can either make or break your agency depending on what you want their jobs to be. So if you're interested in like, how do I motivate my staff? Drive is an incredible book. Benefits is another thing. We are talking about, are you offering them health care? Do they have full-time benefits? Do they have the ability to work from home? Like, what is your shtick that's going to make people want to continue to work for you?
Especially whenever you're like hiring people like around like in our age group, millennials and younger, benefits are kind of huge.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't know so much about like the older generations, but I do know like healthcare, kind of a huge deal. It is for everyone, but especially younger. There's a big talk in like the millennial world, Gen Z, where it's like a lot of people are without healthcare. So healthcare is kind of like a buzzword. Yeah. So benefits, especially if you're hiring like in a little bit like younger. I guess.
And I think the millennials for sure. Millennials being ages what, 24 to 40 now. I think it's millennials.
Something like
that. Yeah. So really good point. Growth opportunity. This is another huge buzzword. Again, one of the number one. There are two biggest reasons why people lose their job, and it's actually very rarely is it income. One of it is your atmosphere and culture. We'll get into that. But the second one, people lose their job because they don't see a growth opportunity. Big one for millennials as well. Millennials are extremely motivated by promotion, by growth opportunities. So if somebody is interested in maybe one day entering the sales field or wanting to become a level of management, that's one thing I would make sure if you are adding admin, make sure that you can incorporate leadership opportunities there as well, because lack of growth opportunities was a huge reason why people left their current job. Which is extremely interesting. Last but not least is the unsung hero, atmosphere and culture. Be extremely careful of this, especially if you're an agency that uses and has family in what they do. Just be very conscious of this, because sometimes family culture can make things really fun and really great. However, if it's actual family culture, a lot of times what we see agencies that do have a lot of family working together is that they bring their at-home drama to the office, which can actually create a really toxic culture.
Yeah, for sure. I have been a receptionist at one company, and I am not a receptionist or an admin staff or anything here, but a lot of my tasks are admin sort of tasks. And I can tell you, one job was my least favorite job I've ever had, and the other job is the best job I've ever had.
And that one's this.
That one's this. That one's this one. And I can tell you, it has absolutely nothing to do with the tasks that I do day to day, and it has everything to do with the atmosphere and how I'm treated and how I'm respected. Literally night and day difference. The other one, I sat in silence. No one talked to me all day unless they were giving me something to do. And the other one is conversation. How can we work together? How can, you know what I mean? It's just, it makes such a huge difference. And just because, I'm going to say it, just because we're in insurance doesn't mean that the day has to be next thing, the next thing, the next thing. It can be, I guess everyone knows what I'm saying. Like, you can have a good office culture.
Culture has almost everything to do with it. I would say too, something some interesting things that we found, studies have found, was that we talk about pay structure can help or hinder somebody's motivation. They said that they did a survey and they found that most of the people would say that what motivated them was actually praise and recognition from their supervisor, and they would prefer that over a 10% raise in money and salary. That. They would prefer recognition and praise from their supervisor. So again, that's something people, whenever they go to hiring administrative staff, the first thing they go to is making them happy through pay. However, that is such a, of course you want to be fair. You've got to make sure they're making a living wage and that working for you doesn't cause them to have to work multiple jobs. But talking about their value, allowing them, showing them the growth opportunities and building that culture to where they're happy to come to work because they have friendship and feel cared about at work, that overshadows the pay structure almost every single time. Yeah. Terry asked a great question. And you're going to have to read it because I'm only catching every word.
That's fine. If admin becomes agent, how do you pay? And do you have to become an FMO?
So that's a great question, Terry. So we actually see this quite a bit where somebody gets hired as an administrator, as an administrative staff, and again, doing those tasks we talked about, but they see the income opportunity that you have and kind of the kill what you eat nature of becoming an agent. And a lot of times, because of the opportunity and because of the growth opportunity that they see in that, they do want to make that transition. And so that is what we see work most successful, is when you actually go from transitioning from an admin to a downline agent. It comes down to having a true and very outlined transition period. That admin staff is used to getting paid. It doesn't matter if I show up and play on my phone all day or if I, work really hard, they get paid an hourly rate. To make that jump into an agent, we see most of the time whenever that fails, it's because they can't afford to lose their income to become a true agent.
Yeah.
So having a transition period to where you're still paying them for maybe doing administrative tasks, but then you also give them time to sell, or maybe start bonusing them based on sales to where they're not getting paid by the carrier, you're paying them and bonusing them based on those sales, and then fully transitioning them to where they are full commission. But there does have to be a transition from pay structure mainly. Now, when that happens, again, whenever you do decide to add downline staff, make sure you talk to your FMO. A lot of times when you do add downline agents, you get opportunities. Some carriers will bump your commissions, but it just depends on how you want to pay them. License only agent versus sub agent. For more details on that, go to SMS University and click on the agency training. There is an LOA versus sub agent video there with a ton of information between what's the differences between the two. But it all comes down to, again, making sure you have the right contract levels to where you can set up your downline the way that you want to. Don't have to become an FMO, but make sure you have a good relationship with your FMO, hopefully your FMO senior marketing specialist, to have that conversation. Include them in on that conversation. They'll help you out a lot.
That's a good question.
So next thing is, and again, I want to make this really clear, is that when you start adding administrative staff, again, you should. If you find yourself being really busy, the magic number there is about 300 clients. When you find yourself doing more busy work than productive, when you find yourself fiddling more with retention practices, checking, the back office stuff, your Facebook page, and you don't have time to have appointments, that's really when you need to start adding administrative staff. Good administrative staff can really free up your time and make you more profitable because you'll have time to have more appointments. So that's what admin staff should do. Should take all the busy work off and make sure you're productive. However, you need to make sure you are investing in your admin staff the same way you invest in your sales process. Invest in training them, invest in motivating them, invest in making sure that they stay happy and that they stay wanting to work with you. Selling and management, they're very two different things, and they take two completely different approaches.
Yeah, they take two different kind of brains.
Yes.
Sometimes you have a selling brain, sometimes you have a management brain. People like one or the other a lot. And and earlier you said something about it's important to set the right expectations. And I think that that's a big part of investing into your staff. Yes. Is they feel there's nothing worse than doing admin tasks and having no direction.
Yeah.
And just being do this. And so part of investing them is making sure that they're they know they have those right expectations as well. I think that's important to mention.
I think, and then also with that, it's a thin line between like micromanaging versus giving absolutely no direction.
Right.
And there is a ground in between, which is the sweet spot. Micromanaging meaning that you give somebody a task. If you're the person like me that it's like, I want you to go do the dishes, never mind, I'll do it, you'll do it, and then I'll have to redo it. That's a micromanagement.
Yeah.
And that actually doubles up your task, because not only are you having to direct them to do it, but then you're not letting them do it. You might, it's taking double the time.
Yeah.
But on the other side of that, that is, okay, go call these people and then leave. And you don't train that person how to call those people. You don't give them directions of what the call should sound like. You don't give them the tools to succeed in that. So finding that middle ground.
And I think it's safe to say that a good admin staff won't need to be micromanaged.
Yes.
But yeah, just putting that out there, finding that middle ground, and
yeah. So these are the things that 3 books that I highly recommend when it comes to management and leadership. The 5 levels of leadership is something that I'm currently working through right now. It's a really interesting, John Maxwell, love him or hate him, he has great content that talks about, again, trying to take you to the next level of leadership. Leadership, it talks about the differences between actual management and leadership. So it's one that I'm currently reading. I love it. The best book I ever read on just relationships in general, but it focuses on management, is How Full Is Your Bucket? It is an afternoon read. It's like maybe 100 pages. It's a glorified pamphlet, but it's a really quick, fun stories, a good book that a father and son wrote together. Highly recommend them as far as management and motivation. And then Dare to Lead is one that our team's working through right now as well, that has a lot of great conversations about, again, motivating and keeping a staff happy and trained and whatnot. So these are the 3 books that I highly recommend as far as helping you sharpen your leadership and sharpen your management skills. They've worked really, really well for me. All right, so any questions, comments, concerns, threats, or promises, put them in the questionnaire box. Thank you, Howard and Terry, for your questions. But I think when it comes down to being able to lead and manage your administrative staff, 100% comes down to setting the right expectations and open communication.
Yeah, I agree. I think there are a lot of good points that you hit today, had in that presentation here. But hopefully you can find yourself a good admin staff. Yeah.
I think the best advice I ever got was actually from Bobby Richardson, who is retired, the retired president of McNerney Management Group. But he always said, you don't have to be good at hiring people. You don't have to be good at it, but you better be good at firing people.
Oh.
And because of that, and then that's whenever it comes to hiring people, because like they put on a show. We've like done so many people to where we'll sit down, we're talking to somebody, or like they're one of the next leaders of our company, and then they'll sit down and work with us, and within the first couple days you're like, who is this person? Whenever you're hiring some people, having a formalized hiring process is super, super helpful. But I think something my mom always said is that there is compassion and honesty. And so having open and honest, so you're talking to somebody that it's just not working out, instead of dragging it along and making them, knowing that it's not going to work out for a long time, just cut those ties early. It's because it's almost like cruel to have somebody kind of string them along when you know it's not going to work out.
Sure. And most likely they know that as well. Like if it's that obvious where you have to cut it off kind of early, they're probably not feeling it the same way.
Yeah.
So the same way that you're not. So yeah, coming at it, especially with like compassion, like, I know, let's not.
There was one, and you know exactly who I'm talking about. It was actually who I had on the team before you were on the team. And I was working with her, and bless her heart, everything on her resume was a lie. She told me she was great at computers, great at Microsoft, great at everything, and then she didn't know how to turn on the computer. And there's a standard Dell. After her first week of working here, I sat her down and I said, I don't think this is working out. I don't think this is the job for you. I don't feel like you're honest in the interview. However, if you want to give it another try, I'm willing to give it one more week. And she says, I want to give it another try. And I said, okay, and that was on a Friday. By Sunday afternoon, I got a text and she's like, you know what? This isn't for me. And he says, I didn't think so either. So again, it's just having that open conversation, open communication about what's working and what's not.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Nothing to add.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Make sure you like our Facebook page. Friday, if you did just really, really miss Mike. He will be going live this Friday at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time on our Facebook page. So to get access to that, go to facebook.com, click Medicare Cafe page at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, and you'll see Mike's shining face there. You can like and follow the Facebook page so that anytime we post or go live, you get a notification so you don't miss a thing.
And we also have the Medicare Cafe Agents group. That's slightly different. If you're not part of that, go ahead and join that. That's where a lot of conversation happens between agents. It's really good, just other people in the industry to chit chat with. Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome, guys. Well, we appreciate y'all hanging out with us today. You have a great rest of your week. We will see you Friday. I'll do Mike's part. You can do my part. Sound good? Yeah. So until next time, have fun, make money, and
give impeccable service.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.